Backrooms Remodeling Co. True order comes through furniture. Phenomenon number 9. The Blue Consumption. Welcome to the Backrooms Remodeling Co. database. You will find the information relative to our use of the blue consumption, as well as to the nature of this phenomenon. Whether you are one of our valued employees or a guest visiting the site, feel free to ask any questions you may have in the forum section at the bottom of this page. Was this information helpful to you? Yes or no? The blue consumption is a central phenomenon that occurs in the backrooms, linked to the enigmatic level, the blue channel. It includes a whole process that goes from the destruction of one level to the creation of another. Stages. The phenomenon includes 3 different stages. They are as follows. The disintegration. The first stage of the phenomenon is the disintegration. During this phase, the blue channel will begin to eat away at the edges of the level, gaining mass and ground. The edges of the level will begin to crumble and disintegrate into the channel. The speed of this process depends on the size of the level. The larger it is, the faster the disintegration. Infinite levels will not begin to disintegrate from its edges like other levels, for obvious reasons, and will instead see quote-unquote pockets of the blue channel tearing at it in multiple places, corrupting and expanding the channel from within at a faster rate than normal. Entities and humans will also be disintegrated with the level itself. Note: any employee in a level affected by the disintegration should no-clip out of it as soon as possible and notify a superior of the opportunity. Example: the decay zone. The decay zone is the best known example of a level in a state of disintegration. It is in an advanced state of decay, with the first known traces of the phenomenon dating from 2020. Holes in the level lead directly into the blue channel, although survival appears to be possible. The level is now slowly being consumed from within by the blue channel. It is currently formally forbidden to enter without permission, as gathering information is currently not worth the effort. The location of the level in the canal has been determined and is on the renovation list. All that remains is to find a client. The rearrangement. The second stage of the blue consumption is also the most difficult to manipulate, due to the lack of material to use as a base to work with. In this state, the blue channel will have completely destroyed the level, and all biomass and/or inorganic matter will exist in a weightless state in a specific cluster of the blue channel, where the level once stood. This can be described as an incomprehensible amount of matter floating in an endless blue void, like a field of asteroids floating without moving. This matter will then remain in the same state for a random period of time. Footnote: ranging from a few months to several years, until enough of it starts to interact with itself. This event will trigger the next stage of the phenomenon. However, this type of interaction must occur with enough particles at the same time to cause a chain reaction. This is similar to the all-or-nothing law that occurs for the excitation of a human neuron. Footnote: see Psychology of the Human Entity in the Backrooms Remodeling Co. archives. This means that if there is not enough interaction, the rearrangement will continue because the minimum level of excitation will not be reached. However, if there is enough, the particles around the excitation point will stop their dormant state and interact with other particles, forming the same pattern as the first ones, and thus start the construction phase. Special case: remaining fragments. Some decomposed level clusters have level blocks still intact in it. This can take the form of buildings, large rooms, or even large environments, like parts of forests. These blocks of materials are very unstable, however, and it is not advised to use them as a base of operations for remodeling. The construction. As mentioned above, This stage of the blue consumption only occurs if enough matter interacts with each other. The collision of particles will intensify as more and more matter starts to get excited and collide with other particles. The way the first interactions took place will play a major role in the shape of the level that will be created. Indeed, they will decide the basic framework of the level as whether the level is inside, outside, or both, its entrances or exits with other levels, the presence of entities, the phenomena that can occur inside it, and the no-clip properties of the said material, walls, floors, etc. These are not the only parameters, but they are the most important. It is in this state that it is possible to rearrange these settings and reshape the level. Even if the essential aspects decided by the first collisions cannot be changed, some lesser impacts can be made to change some aspects of the future level. It is very important to note, however, that at this point, the level is extremely unstable, and thus, every action must be performed with extreme caution in order not to cause the collapse of the level in the process of creation. An event that could kill the entire renovation team on duty and ruin an opportunity for reconstruction. The following devices were developed by the Remodeling Co. to manipulate the level creation during the construction phase. Show device list. Device list. Document owned by Backrooms Remodeling Co. Structural stabilizers. These devices are a modified version of the reality fresheners. They are used in very rare cases, when a rift appears in the level, causing part of the blue channel to enter it, or, in the case of a remodeling that is getting out of control, they provide a more powerful and rapid effect than the fresheners, but are also more dangerous for users. Keep only as a last resort and quickly move away to avoid contact. Effects on employees may vary, but generally result in more or less rapid disintegration. Use sparingly and safely. Remoleculizer. This device is the basis for working in the blue channel in most cases. It allows the molecular restructuring of a defined small space within the remodeled level. It must be adjusted according to the area to be remodeled, as well as the nature of the modifications. It has the advantage of working very efficiently and reliably, although the size and the structure is limited. It allows, for example, to reshape buildings or gardens in order to make the area habitable. Be careful to use it only following the instructions in the manual, as an overload of the device could have disastrous consequences. Structural smoggers. The usefulness of these objects is the opposite of the remoleculizer. In fact, they allow a modification of the general creation scheme of the level by altering, at very high speed, the iterations between the different particles. It cannot change a level into a drastically different environment, i.e., a purely interior space cannot become strictly exterior, but it can change the shape in more discrete ways, such as plains into hills or rivers into streams. Note, however, that unlike the extremely accurate remoleculizer, structural smoggers can cause secondary effects on the terrain and increase the chance of rifts and blue channel openings appearing within the level. If this happens, use structural stabilizers to attempt to re-anchor the area and immediately no-clip out of the level to avoid any loss of personnel. Directive. Protocol. The most important concept when working with this phenomenon is that it is extremely easy to destroy the level in any way. Indeed, one must not forget that the level is still under construction, each particle interlocking with the others in a very precise way, which means that uncontrolled interference not only causes the loss of the pattern that was created at the end of the second stage, but also, in a relatively short time, a kind of cancellation of the links already made, which undoes the structures previously made, floors, walls, vegetation, and expands the level, causing it to collapse. The no-clip in this situation is extremely complex, which means that once the destruction process has begun, it is very likely that the team responsible will lose their lives. The survival of our employees is our priority. Therefore, we ask our teams to follow the following protocol upon arrival on the field. Footnote: it does not guarantee survival, but based on our testing, it still seems to provide relative safety. Mark the entrance to the level and stabilize it with reality fresheners to firm it up. Do not move away from the work area. Depending on the nature of the work, use the remoleculizer or structural smoggers. Instructions for the use and restrictions are indicated in the said manuals, while generalities are noted above, without deviating from the instructions for use to avoid any adverse effects. During the entire operation, block all holes into the blue channel with reality fresheners, as leaving them open can cause a localized, or more rarely, total collapse of the level. Once the operation is complete, deactivate all reality fresheners to avoid overdosing, while the level is anchoring and no-clipping immediately afterwards via the entrance rift. Don't take your time, as the exit may become blocked over time. Do's and don'ts. Do: follow the instructions. Stay within the area. Be aware of the instructions for use of the equipment. Don'ts: lose sight of a colleague. Improvise, or at least don't do it without prior consultation. Use the remoleculizer if there is a smoke from structural smogger in the air. Footnote: the waves of the remoleculizer and the smoke mist interfere with each other, which can cause a partial or total collapse of the area or the level. Change logs. Here you will find all the files related to the most notable changes to a level during the construction phase by the Backrooms Remodeling Co. Attempt number 1. Tentative number 1. Document owned by Backrooms Remodeling Co. Attempt number 1. Location coordinates. Corrupted. Now destroyed. Description: formerly an infinite forest that folded in on itself. The rearrangement resulted in the creation of a huge non-Euclidean parking lot, unfit for life. Do you see yourself living in it? Rhetorical question, of course. Plus, what's the point of having a parking lot with no store? Anyway, we sent a team to influence the creation of the level. Nothing huge, of course. After all, it was our first attempt, just setting up a small convenience store to make the area useful. We had 15 employees no-clip with reality fresheners and prototypes to manipulate the environment. Notes: well, it may be true that we lost the entire team in an unfortunate accident, but if you look at the bright side, you will always learn better from your mistakes. The experimental structures stabilizers created a gap in reality, which crushed the level and all its contents in on itself. Project Manager Harkness. Attempt number 2. Document owned by Backrooms Remodeling Co. Attempt number 2. Location coordinates. Corrupted. Now destroyed. Description: previous form unknown. Created as an exact replica of Level 0, except for the colors, which were reversed. Desired remodeling. Well, this time it was for a client. God knows what group would need to make a level like this livable, but that's our job after all. This time, we had to get rid of that damn insulation property that was starting to set in. Notes: yes, I was once again in charge of the operation. Of course, with the information obtained with the first attempt, our team knew how to improve and use the equipment well in order to carry out our task with structural smoke. Nevertheless, it appears that the level did not resist and also withdrew on itself several days later. No loss is to be deplored, except for the confidence in me that my superiors could have had, who apparently did not appreciate the answer delivered by the client group. Project Manager Harkness. Attempt number 3. Document owned by Backrooms Remodeling Co. Attempt number 3. Location coordinates. Corrupted. Location still intact. Description: Previous form unknown. Created as a succession of sparsely furnished classrooms. Desired redesign. Lower the rate of entity appearances, especially of dullers. Notes. Harkness's failures cost him his place in the project, so I was chosen to replace him. The structural smoggers have been refined and worked well this time. We were able to reduce the rate of appearance of entities inside to a degree acceptable to our client. I feel like I just did the opposite of the protocol that Harkness developed, but it worked perfectly, and I'm not going to complain about it. Project Manager Esther,